And thank you for having us. Small change in plan here. I'm going to moderate the session. It's not going to detract from your value, I think, because the guests here will remain with contributions. I'm Malte Barth. I'm one of the co-founding partners at Bitcraft Ventures. So, we're one of the investors in the space, deriving from the games and esports side of things, and obviously with more and more platforms, including XR, VR, AR. We branching over into new territories when it comes to platforms. And I'm super happy to moderate the panel about the future of VR and AR gaming and esports. Maybe we should have a quick round of introduction. You guys want to start? Nuno, want you go first as a local,
yes.
as a native here in Lisbon?
Hola, my name is Nuno Folhadel. I am the CEO of OnTop. We are a team focused 100% in augmented reality. We've been developing for the last 6 years, and we are turning the world into the ultimate gaming platform.
Hey everyone, my name is Casper. I'm the co-founder of ReadyPlayMe. ReadyPlayMe is a cross-game avatar platform for the metaverse, so we're connecting different games and apps together. We have over 4,000 apps and games today that we connected together, which means that we can give users one consistent avatar they can use in multiple different places.
Hi everyone, I'm Christoph, co-founder at Vertex. We're building a virtual fan experience for esports and sports live entertainment. Easiest thing for you to imagine is a virtual stadium with sports and esports presented in the center in full 3D. And then fans are there with avatars.
Awesome. Thank you so much. First, before we get deeper into the theme, we'd like to know, how did you end up in VR and AR? What was your initial turning point? What made you jump into that platform? Spicy anecdotes also welcome.
I can start. For me, it was on 2015. I was doing mobile games. And I entered in a game jam that they have the Epson Move Rio glasses, that they are quite lean. And we did an experience based on the movie They Live from John Carpenter. And basically what we did, we print lots of Vuforia markers. We put on dozens of persons. We glued on these dozens of persons, and we said, some of these folks are infected. You need to put the glasses and to look around to find who is infected. And it was amazing. For me, it's life-changing because people are moving around, they grab the people, they try to see the marker to see if they are infected. And I noticed, okay, this is the next big thing, and we can define the rules of we are going to interact and play with each other. So it was a shift. I give up on mobile gaming classic and jumped directly for AR.
Very good.
So we as a company have been working on avatars close to the past 8-9 years. Initially got into working on avatars when we were literally very excited about the 3D printing space. That was a thing back in the day. But us getting into AR and VR, I think it was 2016 or something like this, when the first time Facebook, or now Meta, Zuckerberg kind of introduced this vision for the future of VR. Obviously, we as gamers by heart and VR enthusiasts, obviously we were into VR before. But at that moment, when we saw a company like Facebook, painting the vision that we ourselves really believe in as well, that kind of got us really, really excited to invest even further into VR and AR to understand how can we build the product for developers that are building experiences in the space. So this was a real true turning moment for us, when we were like, okay, this is serious. We need to kind of go full on there.
Yeah, for me it's actually interesting. I started out on the investment side. I used to work for a VC fund as well in Germany, Early Bird, and as a young investment manager in an established team, you're always trying to find the areas where you are strong and can represent. And at the time, obviously I also played games all my life, and I was seeing all these new 3D interfaces, XR interfaces pop up in 2015, 16, so I was investigating that space quite a lot. At the same time, obviously, game tech or game development technology was becoming more and more accessible for everyone, so the ability for people to create 3D experiences, games, etc., was becoming easier and easier. So for me, already back then, it was this idea, what I think we now all connect with the metaverse term, was starting to become quite concrete, where it's like, okay, clearly there's a future for 3D interfaces and 3D content. Like the easiest way to express it back then for me was always like, I believed that game developers will be the website developers or app developers of the future. And that led me down a path where I'm now here and switched sides of the table at some point.
Awesome, thanks for sharing. For me, I did previous to being an investor, I did run esports at ESL, Electronic Sports League. And then at some point, we see this company called Oculus knocking our door to say, you know, we got something here, we want you to run esports on. It's like, and we were in the process, we obviously long coming up from the PC side of things, and we were still in the process to figure out how esports would ever run on mobile phones. You know, that was 2015, 16, you know, it was not there yet. And then, you know, we had Oculus coming up, and we ended up running sort of the first Oculus esports leagues and events. Obviously, it was, you know, hard to make it work back then. Still, it was 2016, but I think we came a long way already to see it being esports. Which for me is a segue into the next question. Where do you think we are in development of the ecosystem, hardware, platforms, which is essentially sort of the, you know, evolving Autobahn VR, AR runs on with all the great applications you guys and businesses you guys build on top of it?
I can start. Such in a seed stage, right? Talking about AR, one thing that we need to do is really to create demand from customers, even brands that are the ones that are gathering more about this. But smartphones have not been crafted for augmented reality, so we are building the future with the tools that we have, right? So everything that we are creating, you can use it now, they are engaging, but we know, okay, the next step, it's AR glasses. So of course, we need to create the content with the device that are available at this moment, if you want to go directly to the consumers, of course. Then B2B, it's a totally different market.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, I agree pretty early, to be honest. Like there's a pretty strong B2B business cases that are being built. I usually, like, when I think about those things, I think it from the retention perspective, like how many people are coming back to their VR headset. Probably like, if I were to ask in the audience, like how many of you here use your VR headset more than like 2-3 times a week? Like, can you raise your hand?
So many people.
So we have 2 people, like 3.
Use it every day.
Yeah. So makes sense. I mean, like, you know, there's a job to be done on the developer side to build something that's like, you know, makes the consumer come back, and there's a job to be done on the hardware side to make sure that, you know, if you actually want to use the device, you can use it for more than an hour, so your battery doesn't die out, or there's enough performance for developers to build something that's interesting. And it's all going to take a little bit more time than we usually realize. But you know, the funny thing with these things is, like, once the magical thing happens, the curve becomes pretty nice. So, you know, I think we're still in the moment where we're looking for the magical thing, and once it happens, then everybody will be like, that's pretty, you know, then you basically have like one line that's like life after that and life before that. So that's why I'm really excited to see a lot of cool, you know, developers building in the AR VR space, especially like what Christoph is building is very, very cool. And that's the thing that gets people to the, you know, using their headsets, and once they, you know, form a behavior, there's not going back.
Yeah, I also feel like in terms of the hardware, we're actually at a point where it's good enough. And also, if you look at the numbers, you know, how credible all these reports are, but some of the market research I saw earlier in the year was that the Quest 2 was selling as much or even outselling the Xbox in the US and not too far behind the PS5. So that's super encouraging. So I feel like it's more now for the developers, content creators to leverage and come to the platform, which is obviously, it's more, I guess, an opportunity for entrepreneurs or new studios to go there than I feel it is for large established studios that have higher opportunity costs because they're already really successful on existing large platforms. So I think that's why we've also seen so much success from smaller studios seeking the opportunity there, because I was actually just last night at the dinner talking about it. I think we're at a point where if you're a good team, an experienced team in the space, the likelihood of you succeeding in the VR on the VR platform, it's pretty decent. You have a higher chance of failure on the large existing platforms, and the competition on the much smaller VR platform at the moment is not as fierce. So if you're doing a good job, then your probability of a, let's say, medium return outcome is much higher than it is on the mobile platform, for example. Obviously, the probability of a huge outcome on the mobile platform is larger, just because of size, but I think it is at a point where it's super attractive if you're an entrepreneur, if you have a studio, or thinking about building something.
Awesome, thank you. For me, this is one key segue into the question, which when I just shared last night, the first game I ever built for mobile was a game called Snake 2. You remember Snake 2 on Nokia 3311? If we didn't, as gamers, we thought it wasn't a game, It's like, what is it even, right? But if we only knew what this meant for like mobile gaming at large, and we see like whatever 2-3 billion playing mobile AAA titles on pocket computers, like completely craziness, right? And you always I always go back to that point. It's like, okay, what if I only knew what this meant, this little Snake 2 type game, right? What do you think is that moment for like VR gaming? What makes VR gaming, AR gaming special for gamers? So we're gonna have that inflection, and if we sit here in whatever 10 or 20 years from now, the same round, we said like, yo, we didn't know it back then, and this is what we built for. How do you think, where's that going, and what drives it after all?
Yeah, for me, I guess it's a completely new opportunity for game designers and a new design challenge. I think one of my favorite, or actually as a company, we love to take that as a favorite example, is Gorilla Tag. It's like you get thrown into this dungeon. There's no explanation how you get out of that dungeon. And you just have to figure out that you have to swing your arms to start jumping and realize that with your body, you're the controller, so to say, and then you can basically interact with the environment. And it's by far the most successful VR game probably of the year. Meta would deny that, and they try to keep it on the Apple App Store there. And don't mention it at all on Meta Connect, even though it's probably the most successful in terms of retention, and that's where all the kids go now these days. And actually, interesting, a lot of ex-Meta executives just joined their team. So if you're in the investment market, go and talk to the Gorilla Tech guys. They already declined some other investors a few times. But so it's, I think, this completely new design challenge is super awesome. For us, why we are excited about it as Vertex is also the social presence side. So I think that's something that Zach gets extremely right, and where I think he is doing an awesome job of grasping that opportunity. And we just had a panel about emotions and love in the metaverse, which I think plays to that strength, right? We all have made friends on ICQ, Discord, wherever, depends on your generation. And now people make friends in Gorilla Tag and hopefully also next year on the platform we are building. So I think it's this completely new opportunity to connect with people around the world in a completely new way.
And I agree with everything you said, and I'll even building up with this, that I think with the design aspect of things, how do you build an on-ramp for something that's familiar for the consumer to start using this immersive environment? So how do you build the bridge between the 2-3 billion people that have the smart computer in their pocket that are playing daily? How do you get them into the experience? Because I think especially with a product like yours, I was just waiting until you start describing what it is, because it's hard to put it into the words. You really have to feel what it's like to be on a virtual stadium with your friends, watching, this, competition live. It's a different type of experience. It is the stadium experience, right? It's you have to experience that. So how do you build this on-ramp so you get more and more people to try that? And that's the magical moment when you have enough people interacting at the same time, which creates this social effect. That's the magic moment. That's the key. So if you have enough people in the room experiencing the same thing, creates feelings, they want to go back. That's what we're looking for. But unfortunately, a lot of the VR games I try, I end up being alone there.
Yeah, I mean, it's even the case, most of the VR games, the early VR games were single-player experiences.
Yes.
So there is no social interaction at all, because by design, it's a single-player game. So unless you like bots or what else to play with, it's not there, right? And the other one I would bring up is like it's all about social concurrent liquidity, meaning even if it's multiplayer type of experience, it's all great that someone in wherever Australia is, while I'm in Lisbon at 9 a.m., 9 p.m., want to play a multiplayer game, whereas in my time zone and my skill level with whatever other criteria is 0-1 in the lobby, yeah, good luck with a multiplayer game. It's not going to happen, right? So, and I think this is one of the key things to watch out for, like when is that chicken egg thing coming together in a sense of, you have enough liquidity to create the network effects, right? Which always brings me back to the concept of what's the killer app of VR, AR gaming. And AR we're going to discuss because I think it's quite different. The question is have we seen, the VR gaming killer app yet? Beat Saber, maybe? Is that a killer app? I don't know. But I think this is for us the one focus we keep on looking very carefully out for, which then ideally starts scaling as a social network, so to say, because after all, games are a social network, as you mentioned, meeting new people, bringing in friends, hanging out there, using the social fabric of what gaming has to offer, ideally team-based play. You have clans, you got tribal nature that gets you going and drags you back into the game. And there you sort of defy gravity as a network, so to say, by the means of VR. How's it for AR? How do you look at this? Have you seen the killer app moment for you in VR gaming?
Not yet. We are building it, but is what we are doing. I don't do VR. Personally, I opposite VR because I think it's small. Like the 3 billion AR is going to break the status quo, right? It's going to be a new life standard for us to involve, to interact with each other. And what you are saying about social, AR, you are seeing the people when you are playing with someone, right? Or even when you are doing so with bunny ears, you are sharing with someone. Look at me, oh, I am now. So AR is going to bring so much more possibilities. And the fact that it's social, that I can invite people, that we can discover the world. And after the pandemic, what is quite interesting, VR, it's almost a trap. We don't need technology to put us more inside of something, but we need technology to go out, right? Out in the real world, our world. And with friends, meet new friends. And the technology that we are developing, we are very focused on location-based entertainment. But you are saying that it happened in a VR room. It's amazing to see in the real world, like a soccer game, right? You see people that do not know each other and start playing together, and then get a new friendship in there, physically.
Yeah. Is there any specific gameplay? I mean, we obviously, as a humankind, discovered a bunch of interesting genres in gameplay at large. And we always wonder, when they then match essentially genres on one hand and then platforms on the other, the platforms we know, which are widely distributed, and there's more and more platforms happening and coming about, whether it's AR, VR, blockchain, you name it. There's always this match for us, certain type of games are prone to be very much living on new platforms because the platforms have certain edge, do something much, much better than other platforms in a sense of helping developers and developers helping users to have a much better, ideally, whatever the 5 to 10x better type of experience. Anything you guys would see in the VR, AR side, you say this is the state or type of factor or component that enables certain genres in VR, AR gameplay?
No, Beat Saber, it's the success, right? It's super simplistic. Of course, it have the Star Wars fan base that it bring it there. And let's be honest, everyone that now can purchase Oculus, they are fans of Star Wars. This is the device to get. So it was a perfect storm. Then with the simplicity and music that everyone is attached with, but it's an amazing game, no doubt. But it cannot be the killer title of VR. Otherwise, it's a very low bar, right?
Yeah, is there anything you see?
Yeah, so I think we sit in a very unique position because like as a platform, we see a lot of things that are happening in AR, a lot of things that are happening in VR, mobile gaming, PC gaming, console gaming, and all of the other like non-entertainment like stuff like education and training and business meetings and so on. So what we kind of found super interesting, seeing like where do we see a lot of the growth from, is like how to merge game type of experiences with something like education, because this is like it wouldn't been like my first thing to say like, hey, education, gamified education is going to be something very interesting, but you see more and more very successful companies being built from this. Like even if you think Roblox was educational tool first, that was built into game afterwards. And this is very interesting where we see like how to use the game design elements, either in VR or AR, to provide the value in other types of industries that are not traditionally designed for gaming. So that's very interesting that we've seen happening.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think it's hard to already say which genres are most successful or work for this. I think we're still in this experimentation phase where different designers come up with different new ideas. One of the games that we are working with, we already announced that, is Echo Arena, came up early as well. Again, a multiplayer game, two teams against each other. But then you just mentioned a challenge for multiplayer games. Like if you always need a lobby, a team on a growing platform, then that's a bit of a challenge. So if I was a game designer, I would then, you need to be able to have a long breath and build a community that lasts around it. So there's a lot of challenges around it, kicking that off. It's early days is my answer there. And I'm personally hoping for more innovation when it comes to genres and game design. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, great. No, I like the idea. Obviously, this is a strength of games as a creative, technical, and investing theme. The sheer depth and breadth of the creative cube is just limitless, and that makes it flip over the board typically the minute you thought you got it figured out. And that makes it so exciting for you guys to keep building. Now we come up on time here, like 2.5 or so minutes left. I just wanted to have a quick round, like if we sit here in like 10 or 20 years from now, and VR, AR games are really huge, and everything went right. What did go wrong? What did go right in the ecosystem, in the market, on the developer side? What do you think would be the enabling factors over, let's say, a decade or two that would have happened then? And we said, like, those were the moments, these were the developments, this is what really made the ecosystem strive.
The adoption, right? But in the 20 years, what you're saying, you are talking, it's a cool thing. Besides gaming, AR could be the greenest revolution ever, not just electric cars, right? Imagine all of the devices that are going to disappear, just rely on one. So this is powerful. And then on the gaming side, I'm a geek, Final Fantasy fan, a lot. Imagine that the next Final Fantasy or the next big adventure, it's in the real world. Like we finish this talk and 4 of us are going to battle a dragon or find a treasure in the center of Lisbon. It's amazing. Or we need to catch a plane and then go to Japan to continue our adventure and meet new people. This is going to be is why I say it's a new lifestyle completely.
Awesome. So what do you think?
Well, if I knew the answer to that question, I would be probably...
It's a question of all questions. Keep thinking.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like, adoption needs to happen, which is like the key component there. But I do believe that, probably what would happen is that, I actually agree with you, there's going to be a new genre where we look back, we're like, that was fucking obvious. But right now, we would be like, well, it doesn't make any sense. What should we build? So there's a moment in point where there's something happens that some creative person builds that solves a very massive issue, and that genre or category starts driving the adoption for those devices. What that exactly is, I don't know, but that's the thing that I think we have to forget the way things are done in the past. You can't design with the same tools and the design logics. You have to think outside of the box to make sure that you get to the point where you build something that's completely new, that's going to change people's mind. Like, I mean, like apps in a smartphone, or use sliding, supercomputer that fits in your pocket. Like, that felt pretty weird, like 20 years ago.
Yeah, it's a long time horizon if we think about our past 20 years and on the esports side, where ESL was 20 years. No, they weren't there 20 years ago, right? 15 or so.
Almost, yeah.
Yeah, so back then, I guess when Jens, etc. got started, they didn't think that it could be such a big, that's probably their vision, but it was hard to imagine that, when we were young and growing up, that we could be professional esports players or a professional Twitch streamer. Nobody would have thought that, or on other platforms such as TikTok. So I think it's really hard to imagine right now what will make the ecosystem kind of blow up in the next 20 years and what the careers and big content hits will be. But I think we just learning from the past 15 years, which is why I'm thinking that way, is like, yeah, it's very hard to predict. There's key pieces that we have learned now, such as content creation around gaming is super key. Taking non-players, viewers along the journey. So that's, I think, one element that will be important, which is why we are also active in that space. And then the new design opportunity, adoption. I think, if you look at the teens or even younger now, they're adopting it. They rather want the Quest, or at least some of them, than the new Xbox or PS5. So I think it's exciting days. And then maybe 5 to 10 years from now, they rather want the latest AR headset, or both, right? So I think that has to happen. You have to think that the future generation has to adopt that. We want to create it, of course, but we won't probably be the power users, let's say. So we have to look at the kids, what they do.
But it's up to us.
Thank you very much, guys. Nuno, Christoph,
enough.
and Kaspar, thank you so much for sharing your insights here. We're a little over time, but almost made it. Thanks so much. Thanks, audience, for having us. And back to you as a moderator.
We can open up for a couple of questions, though.
Sure.
We can open up for a couple of questions if anyone has it.
You can go to the App Store and look for Ghostbusters Afterlife. Probably it's one of the best games on the App Store. And if you want, after this, I can show you the game that we are developing, that it's arcade sports, a mixture of video games and sports all together, and then you'll see.
Or come to the playground, try night class.
Great. Anyone else? Well, thank you very much for participating and making this conversation so interesting.